Hello everybody, and welcome back to another Mr. Horror Manga video. Today we are going to be talking about some of the upcoming horror manga series that you can pre-order today. So without further ado, I'm just going to list everything that's coming out in the next year that already has pre-orders open. The first one that I'm going to talk about is coming out from a publisher that is going to be pretty frequent in this list. They're putting out a ton of horror manga, especially obscure and old horror manga, which is very, very exciting to see. So the first book that they're going to be putting out is Panorama of Hell. It is, without a doubt, one of the quintessential horror manga to have in your collection. It is phenomenal. It is a work by Hideshi Hino, who is one of the grandfathers of modern horror manga, and it is his sort of magnum opus. It is what Drifting Classroom is to Kazuo Umezu, and what Uzumaki is to Junji Ito. It is the book to read by him. It was published quite a long time ago, I believe back in the 80s, late 80s maybe, early 90s, something like that. By Blast Books a long time ago. It has long since been out of print, and that publication of the book is now quite expensive, several $100s typically. So it is amazing to see it getting a reprint, and it's being reprinted fairly cheap. I believe the MSRP on it is only like $17 or something like that, US, so it's not the biggest book in the world, but that just makes it more affordable, and it is coming out quite soon. It is going to be releasing in May of 2023, which is actually the month of filming this video. That said, there can always be delays. It's unclear if it's shipping in May or if they're just printing in May. They do say shipping, but I've noticed things tend to take a little bit longer for this publisher. But either way, it is coming out very, very soon. And I highly recommend placing a pre-order for this, and the link for this and all of these books is going to be in the description of this video if you'd like to get one of these. The next book is called The Horrors of NOROI MICHIRU. This is a first-time English publishing of a classic horror manga author. So this is something that has never been available in English before, and it's an author that has never been published in English to my knowledge. So this is a very exciting work to come out. I am always excited to see more works by previously unpublished or untranslated horror manga creators coming out in the West, and this is a great sign of things to come. This is very similar in style to some of the more old school horror manga authors like Kazuo Umezu. So if you're into things like Drifting Classroom or any of his Scary Book series, Cat-Eyed Boy, that sort of thing, this style will definitely appeal to you. And if you're interested in seeing some of the creators that are sort of the forebearers to what Junji Ito is now doing with horror manga, then you will definitely like this sort of blast from the past. And this book is coming out April of 2023, though it's unclear whether that's the printing date or the shipping date. It could vary a bit. And once again, this is from Starfruit Books, who are putting out just a ton of cool stuff. The next book is called TATARISM, which is Takayama TATARI'S Selected Works. This is yet another artist that has not been published in the West previously, and it's more old school horror manga. So it is just great work to get your hands on if you're into, again, like Kazuo Umezu, and you want to see some of the older stuff that has kind of led to the modern wave of horror manga that we're seeing now. This book looks incredible, the cover looks really cool. A lot of the works that I'm showing as the example covers for these books may change as we get closer to their publication date. This one is coming out April 2023, but I believe that is the printing date for this one, so it is probably going to ship later into the summer. The next book is Wonder House of Horrors, which is by Miyako Kojima. This book is going to be shipping in January of 2023, and it is the first time that this author is being published in the West. This work, the artwork that they've published for it so far, really reminds me of the Octopus Girl manga by Toru Yamazaki. That's a book that was published by Dark Horse quite a while ago, and it was kind of like a mix of comedy and horror. I'm not sure if this is going to have that comedy element, but the visual style definitely reminds me of that. It's kind of like a modern twist on the more classic horror manga style. So it's a very unique kind of book, and the artwork looks incredible. The cover looks really cool. I didn't even expect this one. I didn't catch it originally on their manga listing for Starfruit Books, but they've been taking pre-orders for it recently. And it seems it's going to be coming out in due time. So in the winter, this book is going to drop. And it is one of the last new horror manga books that are going to be coming out from Starfruit Books. The last Starfruit Books title to talk about is Town of Pigs. This is a Hideshi Hino manga, and it actually is already released. They did the first wave of this book, but the reason I'm mentioning it in this video is because it is getting a reprint. They sold out completely of the first wave, so if you didn't pre-order it and get your copy already, you missed out on the first printing, but they are taking pre-orders right now for the next run of this book. There are going to be some slight changes in the next printing of this book, so they're going to be tweaking some things. There's going to be a bit of a change to the spine and I think the back cover, so it will differentiate it from the first printing. But apart from that, it will be the same book for the same price. So if you're interested in getting that book and you haven't got your copy yet, go and place a pre-order. And at this time, there is not a listed shipping date for those pre-orders, so it's anyone's guess when they're actually going to deliver those. So that's it for the Starfruit Books titles that are coming out, but there is still quite a bit more coming on the horizon for horror manga. Next, we're going to jump into the upcoming Junji Ito titles, of which there are quite a few lined up that are already open for pre-orders. The first is Soichi, a Junji Ito story collection. This is going to be coming out July 2023, so it's right around the corner. And this is another Viz publication that's an anthology series that collects all of the Junji Ito stories that center around his character Soichi, which is almost like a ridiculous proxy for Junji Ito as a kid, as he's gone on record saying. It's a sort of troublemaker, creepy kind of kid who's always upset with the people around him and the world and trying to get back at them through many occult rituals and crazy antics, and they usually backfire in horrifying ways. It's a pretty beloved character by Junji Ito, a very recurring character, so it's nice to see this finally getting a printing. It's going to be very similar to a lot of the other Junji Ito Viz titles like Deserter or Shiver, just those nice hardcover anthology series. So if you liked any of the previous Junji Ito Viz books, you really can't miss with this one. The next Junji Ito release coming out also from Viz, no surprises there, is Mimi's Tales of Terror. And it is coming out in October of 2023, and I am personally very excited about this one. This was one of the first Junji Ito anthologies I read after discovering some of the more obvious ones like Uzumaki and Tomie, and I think Mimi's, Mimi's Ghost Stories, as it's called in Japan, but Mimi's Tales of Terror now, is really one of his best works. It's just Junji Ito has a way with just following one recurring sort of generic female lead character that you're meant to just sort of follow through all the horrifying situations they find themselves in. And this one is supposedly loosely based on real urban legends and real ghost stories that Junji Ito has been told by people that he's met over the years. So it has a sort of sense of groundedness to it that keeps it a little bit more reined in than some of his crazier works, but not very much reined in. There are still some pretty wild things that happen in this series. So I'm very excited to see this finally come out, and I would highly recommend adding this to your shopping list, because you really can't go wrong with this. If you've liked Junji Ito's work up until now, you will definitely like this title. The next one is a pretty interesting one. It is a book with cover art done by Junji Ito, but it contains no stories by Junji Ito. It is actually going to be a horror anthology series, a horror manga anthology series, featuring works of a number of other creators. So there will be only Junji Ito cover art, but no Junji Ito manga within. The manga within I've got listed here. It'll be by Ryo Hanada, Aki Shimizu, and Shima Shinya. And there will also be an American duo contributing a story, named Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad. So these are a variety of different horror manga and comic creators who have been putting out work over the years, and their work is just going to be collected into this and using that kind of Junji Ito cover art to sell it to the audience that is already familiar with horror manga through Junji Ito, but will hopefully open that audience up to a broader range of horror manga. And I think this is incredible for the Western horror manga scene. Some people may have gripes with sort of putting Junji Ito's work on the cover and not having his work inside. They might see that as some kind of false advertising or something, but anyone who has been into comics knows this is an incredibly common thing to do, especially in the world of graphic novels and anthologies. I think this is a great way to bring more unknown authors into the West. This is a very common thing in Japan. There's tons of horror manga anthologies that get published out there, and I am just so jealous of folks who can read Japanese because they have access to so much different stuff, whereas we have pretty much 90% Junji Ito and 10% everything else. So I am just really happy to see some non-Junji Ito horror manga come over to the West. As much as I like Junji Ito, I am really ready for a lot of different horror manga, and as Junji Ito becomes more popular, I hope a lot of publishers realize just how much of a goldmine there is out there of unpublished horror manga, plenty of which I'm sure the rights aren't crazy expensive for, and I think people are willing to buy pretty much any horror manga at this point, after the huge explosion that has come with Junji Ito's popularity lately. Next up on our list are the sort of miscellaneous titles. These are by a variety of different publishers and feature a variety of different creators. The first on the list is a much-needed reprint of Cat-Eyed Boy by Kazuo Umezu, or Umez. This has been published quite a long time ago by Viz, and the books have become very expensive. You can expect to pay usually $200 to $300 for a set of the 2 books. It's really just out of reach for most people, which is a real shame because up there with like Drifting Classroom and things like that, I would say this is one of Kazuo Umezu's most popular comic series. So this is definitely a must-have title for anyone who enjoyed Drifting Classroom. It is very similar to works of artists like Shigeru Mizuki, where it features a lot of like yokai and sort of antics and battles and that sort of like folklore element, while also having a kind of horror element to it. It's very high contrast, rain and lightning at night, crazy one-page spreads that just look absolutely beautiful. Just a lot of that sort of very noir-looking gothic horror art you're used to seeing, but also kind of a more fun sort of story featuring a more childish character, going on in some cases more innocent adventures. So it's a nice mix and a nice change of pace of a lot of different styles. So definitely recommend this. The first volume of it is going to be coming out in August of 2023, and the second volume is coming out December 2023. And again, all the links to all of these titles are going to be in the description, so if you're interested in picking any of these up, just take a look down there and you can see where to get these. The next book is Homunculus. This is a book that I have actually not read personally, but it has been on my radar and on my to-read list for a very long time. So I'm very excited to finally be able to just pick up an omnibus edition of this and read through this title finally. This is by Hideo Yamamoto, which is the author of Ichi the Killer, which is a very popular one, especially for any who have seen the movie by Takashi Miike. It is a wild ride, super gory, super crazy, and Homunculus is very, very different from that story. It's not just based around serial killers and non-stop gore, but it has a lot more psychological horror, a lot more weird creature designs. It has a lot more body horror type stuff going on, and it even has like a little bit of crazy comedy kind of stuff. You'll definitely like this if you like typical body horror sort of stuff, or if you like more thriller type horror like Monster and things like that, where it's kind of investigative. But you'll also really like this if you like the works of Shintaro Kago, and artists who just show you things you've never seen before in very, very weird and sometimes horrifying, sometimes goofy ways. It's a really, really unique manga, and I am very excited to finally read it properly. And this one is coming out June of 2023, and pre-orders, as usual, are already open. Link will be in the description. The last title on this list is Shadow over Innsmouth by Go Tanabe. This is an artist who has published numerous adaptations of H.P. Lovecraft's work into manga, and Dark Horse has been translating them gradually over time. He's already put out The Hound and other stories, as well as At the Mountains of Madness, and they're incredible. I am a big fan. I think these are some, I don't want to say slept-on titles, because they're clearly selling well enough that Dark Horse is continuing to publish them, but I don't see them spoken about often in the sort of horror manga circles that like to talk a lot about Junji Ito and the sort of classic traditional horror manga artists. These adaptations of Lovecraft's work seem to almost be marketed more towards the graphic novel enthusiasts. It seems to almost be, to a lot of folks, just a graphic novel by a Japanese artist instead of like a manga, mainly because it is adapting the work of a Western author. But I think these are just some of the best horror manga out there right now. I'm a huge fan of H.P. Lovecraft's work. I think cosmic horror is amazing, and anyone who likes Junji Ito's work, I'm sure, can see the influence that Lovecraft has had on his work. And so to see the author whose work has probably most strongly influenced, at least as far as Western influences go, has strongly influenced Japanese horror manga, it's really nice to see those stories just one-to-one adapted in the medium of horror manga. So I am very excited to see what he does with The Shadow over Innsmouth. It is a classic H.P. Lovecraft story, and I hope Dark Horse continues to translate the works of Go Tanabe, because I would love to see him tackle some other Lovecraft stories, like maybe The Call of Cthulhu one day. So I hope they keep coming, and I am definitely pre-ordering this one. So that's it for this list of upcoming horror manga that you can pre-order right now. As I mentioned before, the links are in the description for all of these titles. All of the Amazon links are affiliate links, so it does help this channel at no additional cost to yourself if you do end up pre-ordering any of these titles through Amazon, so I would much appreciate that if you don't mind. But that's it for now, and if you know of any upcoming horror manga titles that I maybe have missed, definitely leave a comment and let me know, and I will cover them in another video. And I don't want to miss anything myself, so help me stay on top of this. With that said, let me know what kind of videos you guys would like to see, and I will do my best to make it. If you like this video, give it a like, and if you want to see more horror manga content, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. I will see you guys in the next one.